Okay, this question here in Practice Exam 1 in Excel 2016, the question itself is very straightforward. We're simply going to find a text file that's called moretoys.csv and then bring it into this spreadsheet here. We're going to put it right here at cell A16, and we're just going to see data being placed there. The file we're going to put in there is called moretoys.csv, and usually before I import a file, I will open it up just to take a look and see what's in it. And here you can see that there are just 8 rows of data, and there's no column headings or anything. It's just plain data. So I'm going to close that. And the problem with this question is described down here in the help section in geometrics. I'm going to move this up a little bit higher so we can see this question. So it really involves quite a bit of stuff here to understand. Let me just see if I can explain it real clearly for you. I don't know which versions of Office you have at ASH. I doubt that you have the old original Office 2016. But even if you don't have the Office 2016, we can still do this from Office 365. And there's a couple of ways of doing that. But what they are asking us to do here is to add something, a new tab and a new group, and put it on the ribbon up here at the top. So right now we have home, insert, page, layout, and so on. And we're going to actually create a new tab up here. And inside of that tab, there will be a group. And what we're going to do is go back in time. We're going to go back and find an option called All Commands. And we're going to put into our ribbon an old way of bringing data into an Excel workbook. And it's called Import External Data. We're going to add that to our ribbon, and then we will bring in that file. And it's really very easy to do once we get the ribbon all set up for this. And so let's just do that. We'll use this first method here to help us get it solved. And we're going to go find Import External Data and add it to the ribbon. All right. So what we'll do is go to the ribbon up here. Now, if you want to edit the ribbon, the instructions down here tell you how you can do it. And they always talk about going to File and coming down to Options and then choosing Customize the Ribbon like this. That's 3 clicks. But you can do it a lot faster if you just find any place on the ribbon. It doesn't make any difference where. You just obviously can't click where there is already some object. But anywhere there is blank space, like here, right below where you do left and center and right alignment, I can right click here, and then here's an option to customize the ribbon. Or I could come way over to the side where there's a big blank space and customize the ribbon. But what I do is normally just make it easy on myself and just find any place where there's blank space, like even up here beside wrap text, I can right click and customize the ribbon, 1 click, and it takes me straight there. Now, what I want to do in the ribbon, I have to add a new tab. And the reason is we can't put a lot of the old things that we're going to find here onto the ribbon without putting them in their own special little tab. So I'm going to create a new tab, and we'll just call this tab, I'll rename it and call it Excel 2016. And then I can just leave it in this group here called New Group. But I want to make sure that New Group is highlighted. It doesn't make any difference what you name this. It doesn't make any difference whether you name or not name the new group. But what we have to do is come up over here to choose commands from. we have to select the one that says all commands. All commands. And once we get all of these, if you scroll down through here and just look at all of the hundreds of different commands that we can add to the ribbon. Some of these are just hardly ever used, and some of them are what we call legacy. Anything that is a legacy tool, legacy in computer terms simply means that it's old. It's not used anymore. And so here is the one we're looking for. This is a legacy feature, and it's called Import External Data. And I'm going to highlight it and click Add, making sure that my group over here is selected. And that's just going to throw this Import External Data into this new group over here. And then I'm going to click OK, and that's done. Now I come up on my ribbon, I can see the new tab up here. And then here I see the import data that we just brought in. I can click it. And then I'm going to have to go to my Geometrics folder, select More Toys, and tell it to open that file. Now, even though this is the legacy way of doing things, the old way of doing things, it's really something I really liked. This is a very simple tool to use. The new way of doing it is more complicated, but it works just as fine. Now, in the data here, we have 3 steps, step 1, 2, 3. And the first one is asking us whether it's delimited. Delimited means what separates the data. And so you can see down here in the data that what separates this 11 from the word rope is a comma. And that's why this file is called a CSV. That stands for comma separated values. And so we have commas that separate all the values in this table. So we're going to leave it here on delimited, and we'll talk about the commas here in just a moment. The next one is down here where it says my data has headers. And that's one reason that we opened the file before we tried to import it, because we wanted to see whether or not any of these columns of data have headers, and none of them do. So I want to make sure that my data has headers is not checked. And then I simply will select Next. And on step 2, this is where I tell it that the data is separated by commas, not tabs, just commas. And then down below, you can see what your data is going to look like. I can see that I'm going to get 6 columns of data, and that all looks good. I'm going to click Next again, and I'm going to look at the data. I can choose whether to import, or I could even mark here, do not import to column, and tell it not to even bring this one in. But we want all the data just the way it is. We're not going to touch the data. And so we're going to finish, and we're going to place this now. We're going to import it into an existing spreadsheet, and it's going to go into cell A16. And so if you don't already have cell A16 selected here, what you could do would be to, I did not mean to close that, but let's get it again. Just delimited, no headers. It's comma, not tab. Next, and then next again, or finish. And it shows here A16. Well, I already had it selected. But if you didn't have A16 selected, what you can do is click here on this selector, and it just sort of rolls up out of the way, and you can come over here and click where we see A16 there. And we'll just click this and tell it to add. No, we're just going to click OK. And what it does, it just goes and grabs those rows of data and just sticks it right here. And that should be all that's needed. Let's see here. Grade the project. And you see here on task number 1 that that is correct. And I will quickly show you the other way of doing this. So I'll restart this. I found out you don't really have to use the old method. You could use the new method, but then on the certification test, they may want to see that you can use the import data here. The new way of doing it is to click on data and then tell it over here to get data, and then there's an option here for text and CSV. So if I click that, go to my geometrics, find more toys, import. It brings it into something that looks a lot different. This is much more powerful, but you don't even really need all the power because we're just going to open it. It shows us the contents of that file, and I'm going to tell it to load to, and this looks exactly the same as we saw a while ago. I'm going to tell it to put it in an existing worksheet at A16 and click OK. And it brings all the data in, but see, it puts these artificial headers here because these headers do not exist inside of that file. But notice all the data is here, but if I grade this, it counts it correct. So you could use either method. It doesn't make any difference. But probably the best way for your students to learn to do it is to go ahead and help them get the special tab created with its own little group and get the import data legacy tool imported into their ribbon and just let them use that. It's very easy to use and it works great. I hope this helps.